Hey everyone, welcome to CresTV, another week and another show. Welcome back. If you are new, if this is your first time watching the show, please consider hitting the subscribe, ringing the bell and telling your friends all about CresTV. Really interesting show today. We've got someone who is an industry legend and an industry great when it comes to displays. I'm all about kind of, the endpoints and the cameras, the tellies and the screens and the displays are always someone else's problem, and I always kind of glaze over that. So I wanted to talk about this because the world is changing, and especially when it comes to things like Microsoft and what they're doing with Front Row. And there's a gentleman and a company that have been very, very active in social media at the moment, talking about some of these changes and talking about this display technology, and I wanted to get them on. So let's bring out our guest for today. Greg Jeffries of Visual Display. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So for those who don't know you and haven't seen all of the amazing posts you've been putting out about displays and different resolutions and aspect ratios on LinkedIn, tell us about Visual Display, and then tell us about you, because you've got a few awards to your name. You're kind of reasonably qualified in this.
Well, I don't know about that. So, Visual Displays is my company. We originally came out of Paradigm in 2016. We kind of morphed it into this unit, which kind of more accurately described what we have been doing and been doing ever since. I mean, the long and the short of it is that we are a small specialist manufacturer and distributor involved with displays. We distribute ambient light rejecting screens. We build simulation displays. We build immersive curved screens, and we cover the whole gamut. But a lot of it is based around our design capability. We have a lot of IP wrapped up with CAD. We use very advanced parametric 3D CAD systems. We just basically help people solve problems. But we've got clients we've been dealing with for 20 plus years, and some of them just buy screens from us, and some of them buy great big simulation displays. So wow. It's a funny ragback of what we do, but the word displays is the kind of the thing that is the common thread throughout it all.
The capture role. Now, in the old days, we used to, projection was the thing. People would put, a projector, and for the people in Europe, that's called a beamer. I never worked that out. I thought that was a car from BMW, but in Europe, it's a beamer. But projectors were the thing, and we always used to talk about bulb lives, and you'd have to carry a couple of spare bulbs in the stationery cupboard and things like that. And then sort of plasma came out, and then it went to sort of LCD, LED, and bigger and bigger and bigger. Everyone wants the biggest telly at the front of the boardroom and the meeting room. But now things are kind of flipping, or seem to be, again, from what I'm seeing, that we're almost going back to projection again. Tell us what you're seeing, and again, what customers are asking you from regards to displays.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've, although we're involved in, in consulting and designing and, supplying around all kinds of aspects of displays, projection's always been a very current thread for us. That our business was originally founded around the fact that back in the day, before all the plasma panels and so forth came forward, the only way of delivering a bright enough image for meeting rooms and so forth was by using rear projection, and that's where we kind of built our name and how we built our skill set. But in more recent years, that's become a more specialized thing. Projection, we do it in signage, we use it still a lot in simulation, and we do that to very, very high level. It's used a lot in leisure and theme parks, and museums, and so forth. But the real game changer has been two things for us. One is that university campuses, college campuses have really had to sort of up their game in terms of the quality of displays that they need to use in order to be able to attract students and bring them onto campus, and to be able to offer displays that fulfill the various AVIXA standards that they need to do. But the real game changer, and I think which is the driver for this conversation today, is that since last year, Microsoft have been putting out some really quite remarkable material, I'd like to name check a bunch of people there. I could, but there's a whole list of people within Microsoft. But they've got a very impressive crew, and they put out a particular document last year about using Teams rooms in the kind of the modern day, and that'd be something maybe, Neil, we could maybe link out to from from this. And on top of that, they've put out some videos. They've put out a bunch of things on YouTube in visuals, and they've on their campus, their main campus in Seattle. They've got this center called the Hive, and they've been releasing, judiciously, that's easy for him to say, releasing, images of them actually putting these systems out in the flesh, building them. And the one thing that they all have in common is that Microsoft have made a really firm move to projection. In order to deliver these systems, Microsoft have been absolutely clear that projection is going to be the main deliverer of that.
Right.
And the kind of the background drivers to that are, you've kind of touched them a bit on your introduction, but really the kind of the big issues behind all of that is that there now has to be a kind of a real game-changing shift upwards in the size of displays people use. Right. And secondly, as you referred to, this new front row layout, where they're now introducing new aspect ratios, starting with 21:9, and wow, it looks like they're going to go straight to 32:9 soon afterwards. That's really kind of driving the agenda for all of that, and that's where we come from. But the elephant in the room is that really a lot of people, kind of old stagers in Pro AV, actually have quite unsatisfactory experience with projection, and the whole thing around this kind of this theme, this meme that's running now, is about how you do projection properly, how you actually deliver images to the right kind of quality, and which is a kind of another kind of little kind of specialist area in itself.
So we're going kind of wider, more letterbox with regards to what, and I go, most of the TVs or displays that are traditional are kind of from the home market, the 16:9. So you either have to then have black bars at the top and bottom if you're going to run a narrower aspect ratio. But with projection, I guess you've got more flexibility to be able to tune that aspect ratio than an actual fixed format frame, I guess. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that is absolutely the point. What one of the the path that's led to this. I mean, you can ascribe it to various points in time, but a significant milestone for me was when Owen Ellis, my friend and colleague who runs the AV user group, he also runs the consultant, the UK consultant group. And we co-curated a session. One of the few times we were let outdoors last summer. There was an event at Lord's Cricket Ground, which Keith at Peerless organised, and Owen organised an event off the side of that. And what the consultants were saying there was that during the pandemic there'd been this massive drive to install these hybrid spaces. People really understood unequivocally that they needed to put these spaces in, but what they didn't know quite yet was how they were going to use them, what the workflows were, and so forth. So there was a really strong need to get these systems in. And it was, if you like, it was like install first and design afterwards. And what we've seen is that there were a lot of systems that got put in haste with the best possible intention, but really they will not be suitable for, they will not be fit for purpose moving forward, particularly now these new aspect ratios and these new teams, these new front row innovations are being rolled out gradually during the course of this year by the guys at Microsoft.
It is interesting. I mean, I've come from obviously the camera side and the codec and the Teams room system side, and we've all got hung up on the camera, a smart camera, and the ability for the camera to track the people, cut the people out. But one of the big parts of front row is, as you say, it is the display experience. The fact that you've got your chat down one side, the actions down the other side, the content across the middle, and then the strip of the different participants down the bottom. almost, moreover, the experience of front row is more about the display, the output, rather than the input of the camera, I think, in many cases. And that leads on to an interesting conversation of the fact that, again, some vendors are just talking about it from a camera point of view. We need to look at this holistically, as you say, from a whole room and from an experience point of view of how we can build this out. And that's what people aren't talking about. They're going, oh, we've got a fancy camera, we've got a fancy audio system.
Yeah.
We need that whole story. And again, that's, I think, one of the great things that you did in your recent webinar. We'll hook that up before. Again, talk us through the ideas, again, that people need to look at with regards to these rooms when they're designing and thinking about putting this system, doing it right. That's, I guess, the key thing, rather than do it now and then repent in haste, I guess.
Yeah, install today and repent at leisure. No, I think it's an interesting group of problems that you have, and you hit the nail upon the head when you use that magic word holistic. But the problem with the word like holistic is that it can sound like some ratty old hippie just trotting out some very generic phrase. And the thing is how you drill down on that. What are the actual granular elements that you need to get hold of and understand in order to do that. And I think that because a hybrid space, does represent a knotty problem. You've got the problem of the room itself, the problem of how you present a great experience for the in-person participants, and how you present a great experience for the remote participants. I think because you have this often what seems to be a really messy knot of problems that are there, that people just kind of go, okay, well, we'll just stick a telly on the wall and a camera bar here, and off we go. Because the thing is that strictly speaking, in most of those cases, they do tick the boxes for functionality. But I think that to be more specific, I break the room design into holistic elements, and I think the classic thing that we all do in Pro AV is we think in terms of the technology to start with, whereas in reality, to make a room successful, you need to think about the space as a system in itself. And it's very much, if you like, a pre-technology thing. We're all guilty of wandering around the aisles of ISE. Remember when we used to go to ISE?
Yeah, Barcelona. And, come on, we're going. It's going to be warmer. Come on.
Yeah, you have got that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, especially looking out the window today.
Yeah.
We'll go there. We're all guilty, aren't we? Because we wander around the halls, you see some nice, bright, sparkly piece of kit, and you go, oh, I can't wait to have a client we can foist that one on. It's got all those nice little flashing lights on it. I'm being mildly rude there, but I think you get the point. And I think the thing about the display is that the thing about a successful room is that you need to be able to describe what a good experience is, but to do it in hard metrics, to do it in something that you can describe, measure and certify. Standards have two meanings. You can talk about standards, if you like, refers to setting the quality bar at a certain level, and to be able to a qualitative thing. But standard also refers to standardization, which is also critical, because a big part of the driver for all of this is that organizations have multi-branch, multi-location, country locations, and there's very much this need for the experience to be uniform, where people go from one to another.
Cookie cutter blueprint approach, where they can go, the room I went in on Monday looks the same as the room I went in on Wednesday.
One of the things that that Microsoft and the other players too, but are making a big thing of is how important it is to be able to go into a room and just start your meeting. Not think about what button do I have to press, and I visited an international law company. That's as far as I'm going to go. Last week, and they, really lovely culture. The IT and the AV and the partners there, all very closely connected. But the slightest hint, when a partner or a senior lawyer walks into the space, the slightest hint of not being able to connect their laptop, they get on the blower and ask for help. Reminiscent of the old days. I don't know how old it was, where the chairman would come into the boardroom once in a blue moon and call his secretary and ask him to how the thing worked. But seriously, having these spaces, the idea of them being easy to use and seamless to use, and of course that I know is very much one of the kind of the drivers for everything that you guys do in Crestron too.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I like, again, specifically around this front row piece, is to say a lot of people talk about the cameras and the Teams room systems. Again, we have that, but then we have the ability to extend the the HDMI, the video across the IP network with our NVX boxes. We can do uncompressed 4K over IP to the projector that sits on the ceiling, miles away, and then being able to add that capability. So it is more than just a camera. It is more of the complete picture of how are you going to get the connectivity to the screen? How are you going to get the connectivity to the Teams room system? How is it all going to work together? And then how are you going to support maybe BYOD if someone wants to come in and on a Thursday call their grandma on Facebook or whatever in the same room. So that's what I really like about the Crestron story in this. Clearly, again, we don't make displays, but that's something that obviously we can, or our partners, our resellers can partner with the likes of yourself and others to be able to deliver that whole experience to the customer, so they get that front row experience.
Well, look, I'd like to loop back about the cameras in a moment, but just talking about the displays. I think that credit where credit's due. I think Microsoft has done a magnificent job of thought leadership in that a lot of the ideas and the innovations they're putting forward for the general, I think, offer some genuine progress and innovation for how hybrid spaces can be planned and executed in the future. But it's also, to me, fascinating to see the visuals that they've put out for front row, because these are, they actually they challenge the very basis of displays, where people are so used to putting these shiny screen tellies on the wall. And they look like a bloody aquarium, they look like someone stuck in, the London Aquarium with this great shiny, and it's a real barrier to communication. And you look at the visuals that they're putting out now, and they've got things in common. The displays are completely matte. They're low luminance. They're not bright, but they've got matte. They've got really good black levels. They're high resolution, and they've got really good contrast, and that is actually effectively laying down the challenge of how displays need to be, because they being able to do that exercise. People are thinking very much, of course, this is about what projection is going to be like, but it also throws it back on displays in general. So I think the displays thing is really a massive piece, and there's so much development going on so quickly at the moment. And again, I don't know if you've noticed it, but at the moment I'm seeing a lot of consultants, sort of significant end users and organizations. They're all putting in these kind of laboratory or development spaces where, to use the Google expression, they're going to dog food the thing, where they're going to actually put all these systems in and try them, because they're still discovering, what these meetings, what the functionalities, what the workflows are going to be like.
Yeah,
I wanted
absolutely.
to loop back to
cameras.
Sorry, mate. I wanted to get back to the camera thing, because you refer to that a lot, and I think that is a really significant part of this, because the plus and the minus of what we've seen, with the Microsoft pieces and everything that I've been writing and making these content pieces and webinars about, an implicit part of that is the camera location. And you can see that they've set the bar in that in a lot of these visuals, the camera is actually inset in the display. And where the camera is going to be, I think that is a very big that is a big change. And I think we're going to see a lot of innovation there. I think that we're going to see the small form factor cameras being deployed in free space in different positions. And then for us, we do projection in two types of ways. One is the kind of the conventional thing with the projector on the ceiling and. But the really big innovation is the use now of ultra short throw lenses on professional grade projectors.
Right.
And what we're doing with those is that we are making these sort of, we call them the visual displays, digital canvas, but these are standalone displays in credenza style, where you've got the projector in the sort of the cupboard bit with the ultra short throw lens poking up through, putting up a really large image using advanced DNP ambient light rejecting materials. But the thing about that is that we actually we can embed a camera into that screen, because
wow.
The angle of light hitting the screen means that we now have the facility to make a small aperture in the screen and to embed cameras. So I think there's the whole thing about positioning cameras is a big thing. And again, the thing with Microsoft is that they've kind of set down this challenge to have a fresh look at things, because everyone's always had this thing about, well, where on the wall are we going to stick the camera?
Is it getting on the top? Is it getting on the side?
Yeah.
Again, I'm the worst, because I've got dual screens and I'm looking at you there, which then means I'm not looking at the camera. I have to force myself to then turn slightly and look off axis, so then I'm making that contact.
Oh, you just made a mistake there. You talked about dual screens.
Sorry.
No. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the dual screen, because I think that I understand what they do, and also it's important to be respectful, because I think a lot of the old video presence units where those sorts of layouts were there, that was very often that has sort of set a kind of historical benchmark for good quality. For a VC, for a UC experience for people. I have an issue with them now, because coming back to the front row layout, is that what we're seeing now is that, apart from the displays being put in too small to start with, now what's happening is that we're going to be seeing the main content appearing in a window within the main display. And the absolute room design 101 is you don't want to have cheap seats in the space. You want the second half of the room to be able to see and engage with the content. And so the whole thing about moving up a grade in image size is so it's just so fundamental to getting these spaces right. And it doesn't matter how much lovely directional audio and so forth you throw at it. If all the people in the room can't see it, then it's a kind of a lose at the first hurdle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lost. Again, there is that classic thing of, you can put the biggest TV in there and the camera just gets slowly higher and higher and higher and higher. Then it's not looking down on everybody like this kind of eye of God, and you just get the shot of the top of everyone's head like this, or you put it underneath, and then the screen has to go up. There is no. So I love the fact that they are, again, breaking these kind of traditions that we've always had in that world, to say, okay, well, because the challenge, as you say, has always been that the projector has been on the ceiling, and then you've got trillion lumens shining straight into a sensitive sensor on a camera that's just going to get completely blown out by the light. So I love the fact that we now have these, again, I'm no expert, these ultra short throw, as you say, projectors that you can embed, and then almost put the camera in front of that, so it's not then obscured by light. So things like the Jabra Panacast has got that 180-degree field of view with that smart framing capability in front of then a short throw, then can throw up that massive surface onto a display and give you that amazing experience in the room. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm not qualified, really to barely have an opinion about it. But I think this whole thing about these wide angle, very high resolution cameras, which with software, zooming and sectioning, because latency is going to be, an issue with that, and and I think that PTZ cameras, of course, have a place in these things, but to be able to be looking in the right place at the right time now,
Yeah,
when it's there, I think that's gonna play a role in it.
yeah,
One
totally.
thing I wanted to ask you,
Go
Neil,
on.
just to kind of as a discussion
Oh, a
point.
flip side. Yeah.
Let's flip the thing around. Well, the one of the things, I mean, I ran another one of the webinars yesterday, and it was actually about the discuss the image size thing and looking at how that applies to to what we're talking about now. But oh, I forgot what I was going to ask you. Oh God, wasn't that a wonderful piece of
If you could guess what Greg was going to ask, stick it in the comments down below on
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah,
That would be good.
yeah,
Again, we have we're really going into this again from the point of being able to provide the connectivity and the endpoint and the devices to be able to enable the
yeah,
Microsoft front row experience, working with
yeah,
our partners like Jabra and Huddley,
yeah.
and those guys on the camera to be remembered,
Do
and
you know
visual
what that
display
means? It
and
means
visual
I've
dis and visual display. There you go.
yeah. It means I remembered. I think one of the kind of the questions being asked out loud now is, if you think about these very large displays, and it will inevitably move up into higher resolution. We're talking about a lot of pixels, a lot of real estate that's being there. It's hard to imagine this being executed in the future without there being a sort of multi-session, multi-codec kind of thing going on. And although it's been very important just to make the whole hybrid space work, to have this kind of this single feed in, but it does just from a technical perspective, even though it makes the management of sessions infinitely more complicated,
Mm.
just to deliver the pixels at the right resolution and without latency. It's just interesting to wonder to what extent we're going to go back to those old days of multiple codecs and
Mm.
so on. I just wondered what your take on that is.
Yes, I mean as you again, if you're talking like 32 by 9, that's like eight. Well, my maths is no good, but 8,000 something by 2160p. If that kind of resolution, trying to drive that from a single graphics card in a PC or in an appliance is going to be a real
Yeah,
challenge. I mean, we've already done stuff around the fact of having the Teams room system and having one of our wireless content sharing devices on the side for content. So again, the bringing or the blending together of those two devices and spreading the screen. It is
yeah,
going to be interesting to see how, with Teams obviously on the MTR systems, it's a Windows-based platform, and again, how they're going to drive that 21 by 9 or that 32 by 9 aspect ratio
yeah,
out of the Windows graphics card, out through Windows on there.
yeah,
That's going to be certainly interesting. But I guess here at Crestron, the advantage we have is we are in the world of AV. Again, we have the ability to have all the switches, to have all of the ability to get the HDMI and the
yeah,
video over even an IP network. Again, I'm no expert, and I'm only like 4 weeks in so far, but we can apparently do 422 uncompressed 4K over IP. So I think that's probably high enough. And if we can do 2 streams of that, then we're covering 32
yeah,
by 9
yeah,
with our
yeah,
NVX product. So
yeah,
I think we're well placed to do this in the fact that we understand more than just we've
yeah,
got a smart camera.
yeah,
We've got that AV background that can then
yeah.
deliver that stuff to the amazing displays that then you guys can provide to then throw up
Yeah.
onto the canvas.
I mean, the way that we're approaching it at the moment is to take a very modular approach. Again, like a display, a projector can handle certain things, but you don't want the functionality and the capability of a display to be limited by that. So what we're tending to do in most cases will be to add a kind of a processor before the projector, so that we can change the resolutions, we can have multiple inputs if they're needed, and also to support different screen layouts. So I think for the moment, one of the main watchwords with this is just future proofing and flexibility, and to do that. And very specifically about the 21 to 9 layout, so that in the new front row layout, you've got two aspect ratios available. You've still got the 16 to 9, but also you've got the stretched out 21 to 9. Is that I find it hard to believe that that many rooms will be fitted out like that on the scale of things, because just to have a room that can just have that one mode of use just fit a relatively small number of people in a single line, my feeling is there's a lot of people are going to want to be able to support that mode of use, but other modes too. So although we are making the 21 to 9 in projection, for the most part, we're saying to people, look, you might as well have the rest of the image too, so that we'll supply that width of display, but supply it at full width, so that you can either have 16 to 9 using the whole of the image, or 21 to 9 as for some of the sessions, and then you've got the best of all worlds. And I think that's that may not be the way that it ends up in the long run, but I think that for the moment, that's really what I'm recommending people do, because you just need to keep your options open.
Yeah, totally. We could go on for hours of this. You actually did, I think it was an hour webinar where you went into great detail on that. Now, tell the viewers where they can go and see that and find out more information about Visual Display, how they can hook up with you. We'll link it in the description, but again, how can they hook up with you and get more details around this?
Well, thank you, Mr. Fluster. That's very kind of you. The main campfire for that, of course, is my website. It's visualdisplayeslimited.com. That's limited Ltd. And if you go under the tools and resources sections, you'll see the webinars there. We are recording this on the 16th of March. On the 17th of March, I'm doing the 6th in my series. But the thing is that they are available for viewing afterwards, so that by the time this goes out, there will be 6 webinars of various subjects and various lengths and complexity. But it's been a fantastic thing to do. I lead AVIXA standards group, and standards and the academic side of displays is very much my life. And it's been the last year has been an area where both the standards and my professional life have kind of merged more and more. And I started to do webinars at the front end of the pandemic to keep myself sane. Not that worked very well. It was a very enjoyable thing to do. We did a whole series for the LTSMG, the technology managers for universities, and we had loads of people, and it's been a really satisfying thing. And it's interesting now, isn't it, that this whole that what Microsoft have done has effectively created a campfire where a subject like this can, to extend that metaphor clunkily, catch fire, and that we've had hundreds of people visiting the webinars, and that's just some of the contents out there. There are some lovely podcasts, lovely webinars, and it's just a great time to be in this industry, because it's such an interesting time to be here. For me, who spent my working life solving problems and hopefully not creating too many on the way, but this is a really great time, because there are all kinds of interlocking issues here that just have to be teased out and understood and stratified and got to grips with.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you ever so much for joining us this afternoon. I will definitely link up the webinar series. You can binge watch. People watch Netflix and binge watch on that. I think we should all just go and binge watch the Visual Displays webinars with Greg and bring ourselves up to speed. So thank you.
Checks in the post.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us this afternoon here on CresTV. And thank you all for watching and joining us on the show. We do this every week. It's free. CresTV is the place to be. That's going to be my new slogan. I'm going to try and remember remember that every week. If you are new here, if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please tell your friends, share it out on social media, like, subscribe, do all that kind of good YouTube stuff, tweet it, LinkedIn, all that. We'll be back next week for more CresTV. Stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.